Okay, hi everyone. I want to welcome you to a new video from runhorse.com Sports, and we're going to talk about one of my favorite subjects today, and that's poker. And I'm going to specifically focus in on Texas Hold'em poker. People like to say it takes a minute to learn and a lifetime to master. So it is a very interesting game, and it has a lot of nuances that are very, very important to learn. Okay, let's get into the tips now, and that's tip number one. Let's start with that, and that's never commit more than 5% of your bankroll to a game. And that way you can play good and relax. Okay, now that's very important. Anytime I found myself buying into a game for more money than I had, I felt pressured. I didn't play my normal game. I didn't play my good style. So you want to be relaxed. And that's very, very important when you play poker. You want to be relaxed so you can play well, and that means to play within your budget. Let me tell you exactly what a bankroll is. A bankroll is the amount of money that I have to gamble with, and that's very, very important. Anytime you're going to gamble, you want to have a certain amount of money that you use, and it's just for gambling. It's not to pay bills, to eat, things like that. So you have to have this money separate, and you keep it in a separate account, or however you're going to do, separate it from your finances. And this is the kind of money that you have to play, because let's face it, this is a game. There's always a chance you're going to lose no matter how good you are. So it's very, very important to keep that money separate, and you can go ahead and play with that, and you can see how you do, and you can judge as well as how your play is from if that bankroll is either growing or decreasing over time. I would never buy into a game for more than 5% of what you have. So if you have $10,000 bankroll to go ahead and play with, that means I'm only going to buy into a game for $500 or less. So it's very, very important. So I'm going to take either $500 into a game, and I'm going to buy into that, and that would be the most I would buy in with. And that way I can play good, I can play relaxed, I don't have to feel pressured about any of the plays. I can go ahead and make those calls, or I can make those raises. If you have to go ahead and treat that as chips on a table, you have to be willing to raise and to call and to make those plays if you think that you're ahead, or if you think that that player is bluffing you. It's very, very important. Okay, let's move right along here to tip number two, and that is to try not to be too predictable. When you're playing poker, you want to always keep your opponents confused. It's very, very important. If you're always raising the same amount, if I'm in a game and I always see someone raising the same amount, okay, say for instance they have a good hand, they'll have a good overpair, they might have pocket kings, pocket queens. Say it's $5 to call. That would be the big blind in a cash game, for instance. And they're always making it 25 when they have a good hand. They're always raising to 25. They're always that standard raise they put in. And if they have ace king or something like that, you might see the reverse. Maybe they only make it 10 or they make it 15, and they always make the same amount. They always bet the same. Or they have ace queen, something like that. They'll make it 10 or 15. They'll just bump it up a slight raise or a small pair. Well, I start to get a read on that person, and that is very, very important. If you have a read on another player, if you've played a lot of poker, you're going to start to focus in on what they're doing and how they're raising. And if you see them raising the same amount all the time, you can pretty much guarantee that they have that type of hand. I've played at a session recently, and there was an older woman at the table. She was very, very predictable. She would muck most of her hands, so she was constantly mucking. When she had a mediocre hand, like an ace jack, a king 10, something like that, queen king suited, she would just call. And the only time she would throw in a raise is when she had an overpair. So she was very, very predictable. She was very, very easy to read, and that's not what we want to be. So anytime she put that raise in, a $25 raise pre-flop, I knew exactly what she had. She had a pocket jacks to pocket aces, so it was something like that. She wasn't raising with a small pair, she was limping in. She was only raising those big pairs, so most likely she had queens, kings, or aces. So it's very, very easy to read that. So if I can't beat that hand, which most of the time I can't, most of the time I just threw my hand away. Now someone that's unpredictable, let me give you the reverse. Now, what she should have done is, if she picked up pocket queens one time, she should have made it 25. Another time, she should have limped in. She should have just called. And then she should have played it slow. Maybe one other time, she should have made it 50 on the flop. She should play confusingly. And she has to raise a few hands that are not good hands, okay? So let's say she's going to raise a pair of fours once in a while. She's going to make it 25 with that. She's got to play confusing. Being that style that she was playing tight like that, she was very, very likely to get away with a bluff, because we have to understand, if she's making it 25 and she's showing kings or she's showing aces, she does get called down. If she's making that play with a smaller pair or a jack king suited, something like that, and the flop hits low and she bets it out, she's mostly likely going to pick up the pot no matter what she has, because most of the players are reading her as having that high pair because that's what she's been playing. So you have to be a little bit unpredictable, and you don't want to always play the same. That's very, very important. Okay, everyone, we're going to talk about tip number 3 now, and that is you want to generally limp in with small pocket pairs. You just want to call because your idea is to try to hit a set on the flop, and that's to try to hit 3 of a kind, and that way you can pick up a big pot. Okay, now we talked about other tips to be unpredictable, so there are times that you do want to raise with a small pair. Maybe you're in position. It can be a good play, but generally you want to limp in with those small pairs. And what you're trying to do is you want a lot of callers at the table, okay? You don't want to hoping that no one raises or a small raise and you get 3 or 4 or 5 players in the pot. That would be the best case scenario with a small pair. So you have a pair of 4s or a pair of 5s or a pair of 7s. And I'll see a lot of people, amateur players, and they'll overplay those hands. They'll put in a big raise with them sometimes, trying to pick up the pot. It's not really a good play generally. What you want to do is you want to call. So if somebody opens for 5 and somebody makes it 15 with, say, an ace king, ace queen, this could be a normal hand. You get a caller. I've got a pair of 4s in my hand. I cannot wait to get my $15 in there to call, and I just hope that that original person does not re-raise. Because if they re-raise, they can price me out of the hand, and I may have to throw it away. So that's just something to keep in mind. You do not want to commit a large amount of your stack to a small pair. What you're trying to do with small pairs is you're trying to pair them on the board. So if you get a chance to call that, so say I get to call that 15, comes back to the original person that left him, and he calls the 15, the original raiser. Hopefully he doesn't go ahead and re-raise at that point. So he's already committed to the pot. So he can't do that anyway, but the idea is to get 4 or 5 players in there, go into the flop, and that's what you want to see, and you're hoping that I go ahead and flop that set, and that's magic, and that's what you want. So when that flop comes out, you want to just hope that you hit that 3 of a kind. If you hit that 3 of a kind, or you hit that full house, it's time to get involved in the hand. If you don't hit it, you do not really usually want to represent anything. The best move in that position is probably to check it. If it is a very, very low flop and everyone checks to you and you're in position, you might want to put in a bet at that point because you do have a pair in your hand. It's possible that you do have the best hand. Everyone else is playing overcards. But if I get a high flop there, an ace, a king, a queen, I'm out of there. I'm looking for the next hand. It's just not for me unless I flop my 3 of a kind, my set. And that's what I'm looking for. So you're looking to match up on the board. You're looking to flop a set. And in that position, you could win a big pot. Because say the flop comes ace, 4, 10, for instance. And someone's playing that ace king. They're playing that ace 10. And you've got that set of 4s. You're going to likely win a big pot. You flop that set. Generally, you're going to have a lot of action in front of you. Someone with that ace is going to obviously bet out. That ace king, ace jack. The next person might raise or call, and then that's time for you to go ahead and make your move. And you can likely win a big pot. And at that point, I would probably put in a big raise or almost go all in, depending, because it's likely that one of those players is going to call you. Don't overplay those small hands. Limp in. Know that most of the time you're not going to connect, so you've got to have some money to commit to those hands, and you're just going to be not connecting most of the time. You're going to be throwing those away. But when you do hit that set, you can win a lot of money, and that's the great thing about No Limit Texas Hold'em. So play those small pairs like that, be smart, and you'll win some big pots. Okay, let's move into tip number 4, and that's to build a strong table image for less callers. And let's explain that to you. When you have a strong table image, okay, that means that the people around you think that you're playing only good cards. And I always want people to think that that's all I'm playing is only good cards, okay? So let me explain this to you. You want people to think that you're playing those good cards, and you're going to have a lot less callers. So when you do raise, you want to represent strength. You're always representing strength, even if you're weak, okay? So you always want to keep that in mind. So when you do put in a raise, I like to play unpredictable. I talked about that before, so I'm going to throw in some raises with some very good hands, and once in a while I'm going to throw in some raises with some weak hands, but normally when I'm in position, and that's something that we'll talk about in another tip. But what we want to do is to raise those hands and always represent strength. So when the flop comes out and people check to me, generally I like to be in position, so that's important. And that flop is an ace or a king, something that might be scary to them, or a flush draw, something like that, and they check, I'm going to go ahead and bet. And hopefully I did connect, like say maybe I raised pre-flop with an ace jack, an ace queen, something like that, an ace king. Those are the hands that I might raise with. and I'll probably raise a similar amount. I want to try to confuse my opponents, so I'm going to raise similar with an ace-jack suited, an ace-queen, an ace-king, probably an ace-10. I might not raise it, depending on the position. There's times where I could raise that if I'm suited, something like that. But if I do play a hand, I would like to represent strength, so I do like to raise more than just to limp in. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind. So when that flop comes out and I do connect on that ace-king, something like that, and I go ahead and bet, and even if my opponent folds, sometimes I'll like to show that ace, or I'll like to show that hand, I'll like to show that ace-king, and I'll just show it to the table, and then I'll go ahead and muck it, and people will pay attention to that, and they'll say, oh, okay, this guy's playing very good cards. And that allows me to steal a pot later, okay, because I have that strong table image. I always want people to think that I'm playing the best cards. So when I go ahead and raise with a jack-king or something like that suited, and the flop comes ace-10, I have a chance maybe at my flush, I have a chance at my straight, but I'm on a draw, I don't have anything yet, and the person checks to me, I'm going to go ahead and bet, and I'm going to go ahead and bet just like I have the ace-king, ace-queen. I'm going to go ahead with that $40, $50 bet on the flop. I have to follow through the same way. You got to play fearless, ladies and gentlemen, because that's how you win. You do not do well in this game playing timid normally. You have to play fearless, and that's what all the good players do normally. They play fearless, and that's how they're able to win at poker. So that's what you want to do, and that's another thing that you can pay attention to. So go ahead and make those bets. And in that case, hopefully the man will go ahead and fold. If he does not fold, or the woman that I'm playing against, if they do not fold, I go ahead and I have a chance to catch my draw on the turn, something like that. If they do fold, in that case, I'm not going to show my hand. I'm just going to go ahead and muck my cards. And the reason being is I want to represent that strong table image. So every once in a while, I do want to show a good hand. It's very, very important, because if you're just constantly mucking and no one is calling you, they may start to look you up. They may think that you are bluffing. So when you do show a hand, you want to show a very strong hand. That's what I would say, and I generally do not like to show a bluff to anyone. Every very once in a while, maybe depending on the game, if they're playing really, really tight, maybe I'll show a bluff, something like that, to try to get some action into the game. But generally, you want to represent that very strong table image, and you always want people to think that you're a strong player, that you do not play weak hands. So it's very, very important, because that way you're going to get a lot of people that are going to be intimidated. They're not going to want to play with you. You're not going to get as many callers, because they're going to think that you have a strong hand. They're going to be very, very timid, and that's going to give me a lot of information, especially when I go ahead and put a re-raise in, and they put in, say they've put in a small raise at 15. Let's go again with those $5 blinds. They made it 15 or 20, and I go ahead and make it 50. And they're going to put me on a high pair, and that's what I want. I want them to think I have kings or aces, so when it comes back around to them, they have to really think about it with their ace-king or their ace-queen, and a lot of times they don't even want to get involved with me. They'll just throw the hands away. I've had people tell me at a game that you're a very dangerous player, you scare me, I don't want to play with you, and that's what I want, ladies and gentlemen. I want those people to be scared of me at the table, in the game. I want them to be afraid to call me. So that's why I'm going to pick up a lot of pots there, just because psychologically they're going to say they're intimidated. They think, okay, I don't have it, I can't beat him, he always has a good hand, and that's what I want people to think. So always represent that strong table image, and that's going to help you win a lot of pots. You'll be very, very surprised how well that works. Let's move into the last tip today, and that's tip number 5, and that's to take a break after you take a bad beat, and that's to get up and walk around and to cool off, and that's very, very important, okay? Now remember that you can always get up from the poker table, you can always take a walk, you're always allowed to leave the table, you can go to the bathroom, you don't have to play every hand, and that's very, very important, okay? So if you go ahead and you take a bad beat, I see a lot of people, they get frustrated, especially amateurs, when they haven't played a lot of poker, they have a very good hand, they go into the hand, maybe they had kings or they had aces, and they get cracked. Someone goes ahead and gets 3 of a kind, or they draw a flush, or they pull something on them on the river, and that's part of poker, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to have to deal with that. That's just the way it is. There's times you're going to have the best hand and you're going to lose. Unfortunately, that's just the type of game it is, and you have to control your emotions. It's very, very important. So that's just another thing to think about. So you always want to be level. You always want to be focused. You never want to lose that focus. So if you find yourself getting upset, I see a lot of people after a hand like that, I can't believe what happened. That's horrible luck. Yeah, it's bad luck, okay? It happens to everyone. So you got to get over it. You got to move on to the next hand, if you've lost most of your stack, you have to think about it at that time. Do you want to rebuy? What do you want to do? You have to have a clear head. Do you want to play with what you have? Hopefully you didn't lose all of your stack. If you did, you have to decide whether you want to rebuy. And it's always best if you do go ahead and rebuy. Say you lost everything on that hand and you're feeling really frustrated, really dejected. You might want to take a break. You want to cool off. You want to reset. And that's very, very important because poker is all about, it's a mindset. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, you have to have the right mindset to play. And if you're not in that right mindset, if you're feeling dejected, if you're feeling like you're going to lose for sure, it's just a matter of time. You're always getting bad beat like that, and you're almost creating that thought process that you're going to be a loser, and you do not want that. You always want to have the idea that you can go ahead and win, even when I'm behind and I get in a hand. I want to think about I have a chance to win, and I do always have a chance because those cards can come out and you can win, but you generally want to get your money in when you're ahead, and that's how you're going to be a winner. It's not always easy, so if you do take a bad beat, I like to get up, I like to walk around maybe, take a break, maybe go play the slots for 5 or 10 minutes, some small stakes just to reset your mind, get something to eat, get something to drink, use the bathroom, forget about that, come back to the table, be refreshed, and just put that out of your mind, put that beat out of your mind. You have to do that. You have to move forward in poker. You cannot be thinking about that other hand. Just think about, could I have done anything differently? If you got your money in with the best hand and you couldn't have done anything differently, then you just cannot, sweat that. You cannot just keep constantly thinking about that. You did the right thing, and that's all you can do in poker. You can make the right play, and you can still lose. So you just got to do that, and that's the kind of game it is. But it's a mathematical game. It's a very interesting game, and it's a very, very fun game. So I think if you do like strategy, you do like cards, it's a very, very good game to learn. I hope you enjoyed these tips. And if you did, you should like and subscribe to our channel. That's runhorse.com sports, where I'm going to share some more information about casinos, about everything that we know, and also about poker, because I love the game and I hope that you can learn some of these tips and this will make you a better poker player. So please do subscribe to our channel. Good luck to you at the tables as always.